Hello, everyone. I am George Connolly, and this is another episode of OneLedger Talks. Today, we have with us Ben, who is the CEO of WorldToken. Ben, why don't you introduce
Yeah,
yourself?
thanks, George. My name is Ben. I'm the founder of WorldToken Marketplace, and we're just here to talk about NFTs and talk about what we may have coming up for, WorldToken on OneLedger.
Thank you for that, Ben. I just started to laugh because I remember my first conversation about NFTs with my son, and he said,
How'd that
"Oh,
go?
silly cartoon things, right?
Pretty much.
Silly cartoon things." So that just came to mind. JPEGs, etc., expensive stuff. Now, for the uninitiated, NFTs is actually an abbreviation for non-fungible token. Non-fungible token is different from a fungible token, which is basically a token that can be used for trade, etc. A non-fungible token is basically uh, like a class type token that has to be used in the form in which it was created. Cannot be changed, cannot be broken down, etc., etc. Is that correct, Ben? Is that a decent explanation of what
That's a decent,
NFT
very
is?
technical explanation.
How would you simplify that?
Um, well, I normally when I get asked what the difference is, right? I just go with a fungible token is something like currency, fiat, right? One is the same as any other.
Okay,
And a non-fungible token is sort of like a lottery ticket, right? You could have two of very similar
a
things,
lottery.
but yeah, they're very similar one another. Could be, NFTs in the same collection, but each one is very unique. It's got a serial number of sorts,
Ah,
right?
correct. So one is actual currency and the other like a certificate of sorts.
Yeah, you can tell I've
Something
been
that's
asked.
certified and unique.
Yeah, you can tell I've been
A
asked
few
to
times.
yeah, quite a few times to tell the difference.
Now, in preparation for this discussion,
Yeah.
we sent out a survey to our communities. One of the questions that came back was cost of NFTs, the pricing on NFTs. How does it start? Um, how is it controlled, etc.? What are the values like on NFTs? I thought it was a pretty tough question, so I'm going to give that one to you.
All right, thank you then. It's a nice
You're
gift
welcome.
to be on the stream. Um, well, right now it's a rough market, right? Let's say Bored Apes, for example, they had a floor of 100 ETH at one point, which at the time was about $300,000. I think today the floor is like 20 odd thousand, so closer to that. Um, so it's rough. But the fact of the matter is, each one of these, maybe the hype is gone. A lot of the people who were bandwagoning in, they're also gone. But at the end of the day, uh, a link to an image of a monkey cartoon JPEG is still worth $20,000.
Wow.
So there is, right, there is still something here. We've It's similar to Bitcoin in 2013 and 2017. The top comes in and then it comes down a little bit, but the value that we've built throughout that time, it retains. It retains up until if we come up with something greater. The hype comes back in and the markets take a bull run all over again, and then we see the new heights again. But step by step, the floor is forming.
Okay. So we've just started on the NFT conversation, and what we've done is that we've sort of coupled NFTs, which is like a digital asset, and we've linked it to art in particular.
Yeah.
But there are a lot more options outside of art and the Bored Ape series of digital images that
Yeah.
are available. On our end, from the OneLedger side, we've been using NFT as part of our technology in revolutionizing asset ownership. One of the things that we've looked at from inception is how we can take blockchain and create real world solutions. Some of the things that we've looked at include logistics. Some of the other things that we've looked at include real estate and the management of that. And if you take that in its context, we've used our NFTs for those two instances. So let's say, for instance, a manufacturer creates an item, and the item is being moved from country A to country B and has to go through several steps in order to make that journey. Because we can identify each item by a unique NFT, and we can store that information on our hashes, every point of the journey we can track at that journey, perhaps in real time. And then in the instances of real estate, if you think about your mortgage documents, or if you think about the documents that you hold that prove that you own this property, okay, the deeds for the building, etc., we turn those deeds into an NFT, and that's stored on the blockchain that's owned by the regulator in the market, so that it can be synchronized back with the actual information that supports it. And then once that asset is sold or traded, it's then trapped in the legal system of the country that the operation is being done in. And that, my friends, is how we use NFTs as an asset in those spaces. What do you think about that, Ben? And give us some other applications that we can have for NFT technology.
There's a few technologies that are mixing the real world and blockchain technology. Even before NFTs, there were some things like I think it was Coca-Cola who was using blockchain for their inventory system, right? Global operation, you want
Right.
things to be non-tamperable. Blockchain kind of makes sense for it. And every satellite, every office has its own node essentially, right? And I'm sure NFTs have a similar upcoming use case that we, the public, are largely never going to hear about. And what you mentioned with tracking shipments potentially is it's probably going to be one of them. I think here and there's going to be some slight improvements on it, but that's definitely going to be here to stay. I've seen other things like similar to what was mentioned, the tokenized real estate. I've heard of a project that's doing something quite similar, tokenized real estate, but it's somewhat crowdfunded, and so people own.
Okay.
Yeah, like 20 people own the one house, and they just own like a share of that house, right? It's
Right.
tokenized, but it's fractionalized. And so
Fractionalized ownership.
each fraction of that house can be sold for different prices because each one represents parts of a whole. The
Like a
NFT,
REIT.
yeah, which is
Mhm.
very interesting stuff. There's a lot of experimental stuff. There's a lot of upcoming things, especially in the world of NFTs and DeFi coming together. I think we'll see a lot more,
Fantastic.
right? Yeah.
Well, there are a couple things that we are thinking about. Obviously, we want to build out the real estate side of the market. And the reason for that is pretty simple. The movement of real estate is a huge asset. There's over $1 trillion a year annually in real estate sales. And it is the most complex and onerous process that you could ever go through. The most critical part of it, I think, is the searches. So as long as we can verify the searches on the back end, then you have an opportunity to simplify that process. But if you extrapolate that thought, think about everything that fight. So think, for instance, of someone who trades globally but needs basically what's called a global ID. Basically,
Right.
we do a passport, and then you go through your KYC AML process with every single entity that you trade with.
Yeah.
Imagine having a single global ID that makes you that allows you to avoid having to go through that onerous KYC AML process every time you're doing something in any jurisdiction. And then apply that to things like travel, apply that to things like opening an account, apply that to things like setting up a utility service. And think about how you simplify that process of confirming that Ben is who he say he is in any jurisdiction in the world, done
Yeah.
from a single platform that's trusted. Extrapolate that for a minute. And then think about how the world has changed post-COVID, where now I live in Barbados. I have peers who work with me who live in China,
Mhm.
who live in Australia, who live in Portugal, who live in the Ukraine, who live in Singapore, who live in Africa. And one of the things that a global employer needs to do, how do you verify the qualifications and the experience of this global community of talented professionals that is now open to you? How do you verify it? And in a unique platform where the qualifications and the experiences for each one who's in that mix is authenticated by the college or university they studied or by the employer that they work with,
Right.
so that the individual doesn't really have to come out and say, I work with or I studied at, or capture it in your academic and professional profile. Think about that for an instance.
Yeah, I think that'll be really handy. Um, I moved to another country about a year ago. And so when I started, I had to open a bank account, obviously, in the new country, and they were asking me, do you have documents? Do you have like a utility bill, proof of address, and things like that? And I was like, well, I just got here. I don't. It's hard for me to give you 3 month utility bill because I haven't been here for 3 months, but I do need a bank account, right? So it'd be nice to have a sort of globalized passport, at least of your financial data. Um, that's open, transparent, and can't be tampered with. So stuff like that, I'm sure it will make it very much easier for people around the world. I very much envy those within the European Union because they can go across at least within the union several
Correct.
countries and it's all the same.
Bounce anywhere. Yes.
Yeah, right. And I would love to do that, but on a global scale. I think this is a major part of the puzzle that'll enable that for people around the world.
Okay. I think so. Tell me about gaming in the NFT space.
Mhm.
Are you a gamer, first thing? And
Um, what was the other thing?
uh, tell me a gamer, and how do you see the future of gaming and NFTs sort of colliding there?
Yeah. Well, NFT gaming, not so much, honestly. I was in a little bit of like Axie at one point, but you know, it was good ROI, but when you 3x, 4x the value of your Axies, you know that it's not really worth it to continue like grinding the playing methods on it. So
Okay.
I got out of it, but I saw a lot of play to earn gaming NFT projects this run 2020 to 2021, but I think a lot of them were like clones of Axie Infinity. A lot of them were very low effort um, games. They were like it was like the era of flash games on the internet, and they just slapped in that they had a token. I think
Okay.
right? I think for those of us who have seen it, it's very sad looking from what it was, but
Oh, yeah.
it was like billions of dollars in market cap, all put together. Well, I think the next stage of that is basically just the quality developers, quality games, narrative type stuff will come into play and just improve that overall landscape. Maybe we'll see more creative um, play styles rather than like play our game and you'll get tokens, and then the token just gets
Okay.
diluted into oblivion. We'll probably see a lot more in terms of sustainability, absolutely, and preferably also higher quality of gameplay, graphics and
Okay.
whatnot, right?
There was an article that I read from Lucky Trader sometime that,
Yeah,
that was saying that Epic Games was going into some sort of agreement with Gala Games to create
right.
blockchain blockchain based AAA games. Now, one of my favorite gaming companies, Ubisoft,
Hmm.
uh, um, they're entering the NFT world. Nintendo is apparently experimenting with it in-house,
I've seen that.
and GameStop is building an NFT marketplace. Now, when you get into games like Fortnite and Elden Ring and Roblox and Minecraft, etc., where you need tools to really proceed in the game, extra power, extra strength, etc.
Yeah,
So Fortnite skins, non-NFTs, are now selling for thousands of dollars. But
right.
I'm so sure we're going to see NFTs being able to be traded there. And then imagine as a gamer where you buy a skin, a tool, an NFT, and then you proceed to a point where you don't need it. And then you can actually sell it to someone else who's not at the same level that you are.
Right.
So it allows you a possibility to trade in the tools and the weapons that you've gained as you um, proceed in the game. There's so many games that I've started that I haven't finished. Uh, just don't have the tools to be able to do it. But now I think NFTs or something. There are two gaming companies that came to us, and we weren't prepared at the time to work with them because of where we were. But now we're going to revisit that, and there are going to be some interesting options on the NFT side in some games. So hold on and let's see what the future holds in that space.
Well, that sounds good. I think a lot of people would love to see new stuff come out. Um, I've seen the number of launches for games dwindle like 99% down in the past few months because
Wow.
of, it's the bear market. Nobody's able to raise money. Nobody's in the space to try to raise money because they know it's a bit bleak right now. But I've seen a few that are like hard at work and they've been posting like teasers for months. So I think there's diamonds in the rough. There's the space has a future. Definitely go out and revisit those people who are still willing to work in this environment because those are the projects that are going to really shine soon enough.
Absolutely. So some of the things that we've discussed as of now is that NFT has largely been focused on creating a more a more personalized and unique experience for some online identities.
Mhm.
Twitter profile pictures with Bored Ape, digital collectibles,
Right.
uh, wearables in the metaverse, online gaming, etc. But one of the things that we spoke about is what NFT really has the capacity to change our identity. So we spoke about that for a bit.
Mhm.
And in any area, for anything at all, to provide fast, easy, trustless proof of ownership for physical assets. Okay. Like house, car, physical property, almost anything. You can have an NFT that's held on a register, a global register, that
Mhm.
shows that you own this. Imagine how difficult that makes for thieves, for anyone to take anything. If everything is marked by the owner and held in a global register, So when you take possession of something, the first thing you do, they say, send me your NFT to show that you own this asset. And imagine that for a minute. Imagine the power of that. And then your site. I'm sure that you are going to take OpenSea and all those guys to task once you get going with your WorldToken there. But one of the things I would love for WorldToken to do is to start being a repository for all things where you can, as long as you own something, you can have a registration of it with an NFT on WorldToken. And as the name speaks to it, WorldToken, anywhere in the world. So if I want to trade the thing anywhere across the world, I can verify ownership by WorldToken. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Like our job as the marketplace and the sort of intermediary for all this is to make the experience seamless and as easy as possible for, say someone who hasn't been in NFTs before. We want to make it's very clear, very easy to navigate. Someone wants to sell this thing. Is it verified already? Is it verified by like a government office, a third party, whoever? Um, and then, how do you proceed? How do you proceed in the safest manner possible?
Exactly.
And all of the back end that's our job, as builders in the space. But yeah, I think sorry, I think we'll have some things ready, possibly Q1 of next year, just because we had some things planned this year, but obviously the market dictates pretty much everything in the space, and it's pushed us back. The recent blowups have pushed us back. But it is what it is. We're still working in the background a bit slower than normal because of budget constraints and things like that. But yeah, it's here. We're doing it. It's slower, but it's gonna get done, and we'd be glad to do it with you guys.
Yep. I think that's going to go forward. I mean, one of the things that I wanted to speak about too was I think just after we started, OneLedger had set up a platform for grants and charities.
Right.
One of the biggest problems with grants and charities has always been the individuals who make contributions to charities wanted to verify what their funds were being used for.
Right.
How much of their funds went to admin and keeping the lights on, and how much of their funds actually went into projects, what kind of projects, etc.
Right.
So one of the things that I think we should revisit now is two things. One, charities have to verify source of funds. So imagine a registry of charitable donors, both corporate and individual. And remember that a lot of individuals make a decision to give to charities to avoid paying tax.
Right.
So instead of the funds going to the government, let me give it to someone that can do some good with it. So this is disposable income, or this is income that will be captured by any tax regime that you're under. But I still want to make sure, and some families with high net worth actually set up family offices to ensure that any taxable incomes out of the foundations always go to charitable events, to charitable purposes. One of the things that you want to do is imagine if we were to set up an NFT, a smart contract, for every single fund that came in, whatever the amount is. And in there is embedded the rules by which the individual making the donation wants their funds to be used for. Like, use this for sanitary and sanitary services in this jurisdiction. Use this for education. Use this for utilities. Use this for clean water. use this for carbon reduction, etc. Those are the rules of engagement. And your funds can only be used for those purposes. They can't be used for anything else. And then on the charity side, those individuals would have to register donor identification platform one time, only once, in that international platform. And then it can be used all over the world, accepted across the world. So you're now a global charitable giver. And all the AML and KYC rules that apply, and all of the financial services, the fintech services, etc., that apply, you'll be able to negotiate easily because of what you've done there. So that's an also interesting use where we can help both the charities collecting the data, that they can verify source of data, source of funds, and also that the donors themselves, they can verify and administer by force of a smart contract that their funds are only used for these purposes. What do you think about that?
I think, yeah, better enforcement, I guess, of limitations. If done right, I think less bad actors in the space. People can be stopped. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's up to us. It's up to make sure that these contracts are infallible, that they are actually able to enforce what they're meant to enforce. We have to just actually use them, right? I think the weakest point of that chain is still, you know, us as people involved in the matter. We're the ones who can break
Correct.
that apart. But the technology is here to help us enforce and verify, and you know, have less trust involved in all of these transactions. It'll make things faster. It'll make things more secure. We just have to keep. We just got some work to do.
Correct.
You know,
And
yeah,
and get more DAOs so that less humans have their hands on it.
yeah, absolutely. The more people have their hands in the pot, you know, the more that's just gonna get contaminated.
Exactly, the more issues we have around there. So what is the next step for WorldToken? I mean, your entire world is built on NFTs. What's your next step? What's the thing that's gonna differentiate you from the others? What's the thing that's gonna make the excitement about your project high?
Yeah. Oh, first, I mean, this kind of market, I think we've learned that allowing people to pay in decentralized tokens, not just our own native token, especially stable coins, is very much preferred and needed. Helps with volume and everything. But another thing we've seen even on OpenSea and others, is that there's collections that take off, and then swiftly after there's people who make fake versions of that collection. So
That's right.
verifications, verifications of, you know, this is the proper ID for this collection. We'll put a little check mark or something.
Okay.
Those are the two main things that we'll be focusing on, just general safety and security, and then polishing of you know, ease of use after that.
Sounds great. Something that's very much very much required. Because we've seen, I mean, I think 2 days after, there were multiple versions of Bored Ape out there.
Yeah.
So definitely. Now, how can I use NFTs for contracts and temporary ownership? Have you ever thought of that?
Yeah, I think for me, I'm not one of the people working on this stuff, but for me, I think the problem lies in connecting the digital, you know, authenticity or the digital asset, whatever, the NFT itself, to the real world asset, or proof of ownership. It's the connection between the two that I think we're going to have to, you know, have some sort of crazy Oracle type smart contract or for now, at least for now, maybe a trusted intermediary. Um, we'll see. Maybe a government office, something like that. But governments have been rather slow to adapt to the technology, and
Yeah.
some governments in the world are not so trustworthy. So I guess we'll see who decides to fill
Well,
in the
that's why you
role.
need a smart contract when
Well, yeah,
when you have two parties and you don't have a lot of trust.
yeah.
Let me give you an example of what I thought should have been a smart contract embedded agreement.
Hmm.
There's a player for the New Orleans basketball team called Zion.
Okay.
Have you ever? I think everybody's heard of Zion Williamson at some time or the other. Zion came into the league, and I think he broke his leg. He broke his foot during his first year, like halfway through the season. So he was out, I think, for the first season and almost the entire second season as well. During that time that he was recovering, he put on some weight.
Okay.
And when I say some weight, I mean he put on some weight. This is a guy who's like around
All right.
two, like around 250, 260,
Right.
and he was plus 300 pounds.
Dang.
So obviously, with that kind of weight and the sport he's playing, there's a big chance that he'll injure himself even further.
Hmm.
So worked into his contract was that he would do a weigh-in each month. And every month when he weighs in, his weight has to be below X.
Right.
Okay. If he maintains his weight throughout the season, he gets a bonus of Y. Now, that is something that could be very easily managed by a smart contract.
True.
Exactly. So you just write the algorithm in, and if this is equal to that, then this is equal to that. End of story. Very simple, you know. And if, let's say, he has to play 72 games out of the 82 that they have on a regular basis, put that into the contract too. And there's a factor, obviously, for games above 72 and obviously games below 72. And once you get that in, then it's just automatic everything else. And then there is no goals met, etc., etc., automatically
Right.
built in. So the bonus just goes on. I wish we could do that for work as well. Huh?
Yeah, I think smart contracts and oracles is probably the way of the future. But
I
yeah,
think it
yeah,
is.
God knows what else we can apply that on. And I think we definitely need to start doing that in a more mass adoptable manner.
So I want to get your closing points now. And if you think there's
Yep.
anything you'd like to say to the community before we wrap up.
Well, for the most part, I'm looking forward to NFT projects on OneLedger. I hope people are still, looking forward to those. I hope they're still looking forward to us developing on OneLedger for the marketplace and bringing the token, including it into the ecosystem. Um, yeah, I think that's mostly it. There's a lot of stuff that's to be revealed later down the line, so I won't say too much yet.
Good. Well, we're very excited about being able to launch a token when it's all set. Hopefully, who knows, that may change the entire market from being bear to bull. We don't know.
We'll see. We'll see about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the point is, I think that we've made is that NFTs are going to change the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
The technology is more than cartoon drawings, even though those things has really changed the world too. I mean, not since my childhood days have I seen baseball cards and digital art be more attractive. Um, so I think Marvel has to get into it on a big way. It's about changing the way we communicate and we interact virtually. It's about providing transparency, proof of ownership, instant access to convoluted industries on a global basis, artists and charities. It's about fairness and opportunity. It's about owning your own identity and assets online, owning your own online identity and online assets. And I can't reiterate that enough because certainly we want to play a role there. It's about community and sparking your relationships. It's about taking back control of the internet in one of our most frequently visited playgrounds. And there's a long way to go, but the ways in which NFTs and technology behind it will impact our lives are infinite. So for us, we're going to enjoy the ride.